Hey, Hal here. I want to talk a little bit about our partnership with OnX Hunt. I've been using it for a while now, and if anybody knows me, they know I'm not a very techie person, but the OnX app is it's a real time saver. I remember the days when we poured over topo maps everywhere we was going to go and stuff, and I don't do that quite as much anymore. Where it's really helped me is scouting, whether it's deer scouting, or moose, or even turkey hunting in the spring, which I do. It really helps out. I don't have to spend as much time running around the truck burning up the gas. I'm just basically using my OnX. Got it on my phone. Don't even carry a GPS anymore. So I just download the areas where I'm going to be hunting, whether it's up north moose hunting, and I use it mostly on the satellite imagery. I like to see the cuts and the clearings and the turkey hunting, the hidden fields and stuff. But everybody's using it now, from the game wardens to land surveyors, and just a great tool. And with our partnership with OnX, if you use a code BWB, you're going to receive 20% off on your first premium or elite memberships. And you just go to onxmaps.com/hunt. You'll be glad you did. Good luck on the trail.
Team member Mark Sheeran here. Listen, everybody's been asking why we switched to the Skinner Peep sights this year. And there's a whole bunch of reasons. First of all, the owner of Skinner Sights, Andy Larson, was willing to collaborate with us to build the best ghost sight for tracking on the market. And he took our input and really put it into practice. And the aperture, the ghost ring itself, is thinner, so it allows more light in. It's all steel construction. It's got a lifetime warranty, and it's also a very elegant sight. So there are some other features as well. The ghost sight itself is dovetailed into the body of the sight, which makes it really, really sturdy, and it can't fall out of adjustment. And between that and the fact that it's all steel, and the Peep sight is optimized for the tracker and the still hunter, it's an amazing sight. So you can go on to bigwoodsbucks.com and get your BWB Tracker Series Peep sight today. All right, good luck on the hunt.
This is the Big Woods Bucks Podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine Master Guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks Podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood, up here in Rangeley again, sitting at Bad Lee's house enjoying the view on the lake with Bad Lee.
Howdy.
And Joe.
Yep.
And a special guest, Rick Labby.
Howdy.
So,
wait, we can talk about snowmobiling.
Yeah, we can.
This is
the only snowmobile we'll talk about is strapping in coyotes on the back of the snow machines.
You gave us 2 minutes last year.
Yeah. Hey, we shouldn't be talking about it. You don't even have any snow on your lawn out here.
This is coming out after Christmas. We're going to have 2 feet of snow. Trails are open. Joe's grooming, bitching about that.
Yeah.
You know.
That's about how it's going to go. Either that or I'm going to be down in the Berkshires.
Why? It's all right.
Western Mass. Is that better, Lee? Portage Brook. We're going to be at Portage Brook.
Why can't we say Pennsylvania? Anywhere.
Catskills.
Nobody's going to listen because... All right, whatever.
Well, nobody listens to us anyway.
Well, if you listen to the last podcast, I was bitching because they tell everybody where we hunt, and now they're still telling people where we hunt.
Lee, you started that precedent.
Portage Brook Road.
No, but even before that, you'd name specific mountains.
What?
Not really.
If you talk to Nick, he's going to say that you're the one that's guilty of that, Hal. But
I mean, I think mine's
I
been
am.
more of a joke than anything. I will tell you, last day of rifle season, I ended it in Portage Brook on a big buck track. And I did it just for the hell of it. But I was coming out of the woods, and I cut a big buck track, and I went back the next day and jumped on it. So,
Well, there's no question that the area has got a few more people because of the podcast, our area anyway, but big deal. There's plenty of room for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And there's the whole idea here is talking to people about it and introducing them to a different way to hunt. I bumped into a guy in the woods that listens to the podcast, and he had never tracked before. Right. And there he is out tracking and loving it. So what's wrong with that?
Right, you're learning.
Yeah.
learning.
I see a hunter in the woods this fall. First time in I don't know how many years. It's been quite a few years. And I'm sneaking along there, and it was bare ground. And there might have been a little bit of snow, but basically bare ground. And I was sneaking along, and all of a sudden, I see an orange hat just like appear. I'm like, it's like I should have seen it before.
Right.
Well, I kind of hunkered down there, and I'm looking. I see the guy's doing something, and all of a sudden I see him. He's pulling his pants up. He must have been taking a dump. He's pulling his pants up. So if you're listening, I caught you. So he was taking a dump. Then I see, and he
could have been any one of us.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm looking. I'm probably like 50, 60 yards away, and there was a big cedar tree there, and I got behind the cedar tree, and I was kind of peeking around it. I took my hat off, and I was kind of peeking around the cedar
What kind of sicko are you?
Well, I didn't want him to see me. So.
Right.
And I swear, after he pulled his pants up and was getting ready, that he had a Big Woods buck pack he put on. Yeah. But he didn't have no orange vest on. Well, I got a little dirt on him. I don't know what the heck it was, but yeah. And then he got his gun up, and he's just started.
Sounds like a local
off.
yokel.
Maybe. Oh, yeah, that was funny. That's the first hunter I seen, and he went one way, and I went the other, and that was that. But,
Yeah, I haven't run into one in years.
Yeah. So
Look at that big turkey walking right by there.
It's a Jake, huh?
Is it a Jake?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
pretty
the
good
Jakes
size.
in Rangeley are 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Anyway,
Yeah.
Look at the size.
They got
Lee's
easy
got a
living
flock
over
of
here.
Jakes here in the yard.
he looks like his name's
There's
Thanksgiving.
a reason there ain't no Toms around.
Lee, his name Thanksgiving.
No, he was spared. His brother.
Yeah. Ate his brother and spared him.
Yeah. So you got a story, Rick? Rick's the only one sitting here that's killed a buck this year out of us. We're a bunch of pikers, I guess.
Well, sometimes that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Between lack of snow and this year and conditions and all that, it wasn't easy.
No. And there was also, I noticed, I think I've said it before, but I think a bunch of big bucks took it hard for 2 years when we had all that snow. I
agree.
Once we got snow, I could see there wasn't the number of those great big ones as usual.
They tagged a lot of them there a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them years, both of them pretty much. They tagged 30, 35 over 200 there in town. And that's one year. It was one out of every 4.5 tagged.
Right.
Yeah, it takes a while to grow them.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I definitely noticed there was.
Yeah.
Not quite as many. I mean, you could find a big track, but you worked a little harder at it. I used to be able to find one any day.
Like nothing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you got to put some miles on to find one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then beat the next guy to it when you're going back.
Yeah.
I think I might have beat Joe to that one I killed that day.
Well, I said before, and you said afterwards, I was talking to you that morning, and while I was talking to you, I was out of the truck looking at a track, and it was a pretty good track, but I was like, it's early. I'm going to keep on driving and go.
Was that the one I took?
Yeah. And I came back. But I did get on I did find a track that morning. I had a good hunt that day, actually, but I came back by later, and I saw your truck on it, and I said, Rick got that one. And it wasn't long after that.
Yeah, he was dead. I think that buck had Alzheimer's. He forgot where he was and came back to me.
Oh, he come back on his track?
Well, not really. I'll tell you the story.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So that first thing that morning when I talked to Joe, I think it was before daylight, wasn't it?
It was right first thing, yeah.
Yeah, and see how much snow we had and what was going on. And I headed up on one of the mountains there I hunt on and got up top.
That's the way you do it. Professional.
Perfect.
One of those. Yeah.
Thank you.
Even though that same mountain, he did a whole article on and put maps and everything. But yeah, we don't need to talk about that.
It was right beside there. But
Yeah. Way to keep it secret, Rick.
yeah, there's several of them beside there. Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I usually like to, even if I find a real good track, I still like to go look around and always search every road around there in case that buck, put some miles on and he crossed this road and the next road. I mean, sometimes you'll find a buck and they'll cross 3 or 4 roads before you get them in a piece. So if you get on the wrong end of that track, you're going to spend half your day,
Right.
just putting miles on. So anyway, I went down and I found that other track, that the one Joe was looking at, and I stamped it out so nobody could see it, which he'd already looked at it. So I looked at it and I thought about it and I said, geez, I think that other buck's probably a little fresher because it had been pretty cold that night, remember?
Yeah.
It was really cold. And you could see quite a bit of frost in that track. And I said, yeah, I think that other buck's right there. And he was. So I went back and I get down in on that other buck and I walked in there probably 100 yards. He had to have heard me close the door on the truck. And he had crossed the road. There was him and 3 other deer. Maybe one was a small buck and 2 does. There's always a small buck tagging along behind when one's in heat,
Yeah.
kind of off the side. So I went down in there, and first thing I did, jump a bull moose, and you could hear him going down through the brush, through all the maple whippets, just raking his horns. And I don't know if it happens to you a lot, but it happens to me a lot. Usually when you're on a buck and you get into some fresh moose, they'll lay right down near those moose. They kind of use them as security.
We talked about that last time.
Yeah.
It happened to me
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
year.
it happens
No
Happened
question.
to me
a
before.
lot.
First time I seen that was
Yeah.
30 years ago.
Yeah, same
And
here,
I'm
right.
I'm like,
Now that's a good little tidbit right there.
That
you
is
know,
a good
like
tidbit.
Yeah.
That's
Because-
gonna some poor deer's gonna die because somebody listened to that.
Yeah, probably.
I make a berth around a moose. If I see a moose and the deer tracks are going right towards them, I kind of back up and try to get around them without spooking them.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of too late because it was, you know how it is up. You know where I was, Joe.
Yep.
And it's 8-10-year-old cut, so stuff's grown up 6 feet, 8 feet, and it was pretty thick. So by the time I come to that moose track, they were bedded right there because they were parallel on the road along the side of the mountain. And that buck was laying 40 yards from these 2 moose. And those moose took off, and, of course, he did. Well, I grunted right away because I said, geez, I bet you that buck's laying right here. I grunted, stood there for a while, nothing. Waited a little while. So I just started poking down through there real slow. Pretty soon I come to the buck track in the moose track, and then I come to the moose track in the buck track, and then where the buck had walked in the moose, and I said, oh, yeah, he was right here. So I knew he was there. Followed him down to the right a little bit, and he'd been laying right there, and those other deer were off to the side of him. So they had all blown out of their bed. So I said, well, he doesn't know what I am. He didn't smell me, didn't see me, probably didn't hear me. The only reason he blew out was because of the moose. So I gave him a little while, let him settle down, and he went down the mountain, and it was pretty good tracking snow that morning. It was,
yep.
Yeah, it was fairly quiet, and there was like 4 inches of snow. So I followed him down towards that lower road, which is quite a ways, really. It's probably a mile down through there. And he started to go down and cross that lower road, and I think I heard a vehicle was coming in, and he looped right back up towards the mountain. And he stood there and waited for me in one spot, and I never even got a glimpse of him. He saw me before I saw him. Then he looped back kind of where I jumped him. I was probably a mile and a half away then. Made a circle. He come right back within 50 yards of where I jumped him, right by my truck. And then he looped around behind my truck and ran across the road and went up in towards the big mountain. So I get up in the big mountain, and I'm looking at it. He crossed the road, and he was on a dead run. And I'm thinking, boy, that's going to be a long day if I go over the top of that, because usually they don't come back. They go over the top.
Right.
And you end up on the backside, and I'm thinking, yeah, there's a 3-4 mile walk to the truck tonight. And
this is the last day you can hunt in Maine.
that was my last day. That was Tuesday. And so I said, I'm going to go down and try that other track. And I'll let him settle down a while. And if that other track don't pan out, in an hour or two, I'll come back and I'll take him. That'll give me a chance to go lay down. So I went down, got on that other buck's track, and I didn't go in there 200 yards, and there's a little bog right there, and the ice was probably an inch thick that first week of muzzleloader. And I kind of tested it. I said, yeah, I'm pretty good. And I was going pretty quiet, and that buck track was all alone right there. I went across that bog, and that ice cracked twice. It just went twice like that, and I went, oh, shit. I just let everybody know I'm coming now, and I no more than crossed the swale grass, just got in the furze on that bog, and there was deer tracks everywhere, like 10,000 deer tracks.
Jeez.
And he had come in there, and he had met up with a bunch of does, and there was one in heat, and he had run her around and around and around and around for like 50 yards wide by 200 yards long, just a strip up through there, and it was kind of cut and open and all that. So, and I didn't know I jumped him then, didn't know I did, if I did. So I kind of was meandering through those tracks, paying attention one step at a time, and I knew I was into deer then. I said, he's here somewhere. And kind of went through the whole piece where he'd been with her real slow, windows in my face. Never jumped a deer, never saw a thing. Couldn't find make heads or tail of a track going in and out because, like I said, he had tracks everywhere. And I didn't know if there was 2 or 3 big bucks at the time or just this one. So, and this is a good little tip for anybody. What I did then immediately is I just looped right back towards the bog, and I made a great big loop right out around all those deer tracks because I said, I'm going to waste an hour or two here trying to sort this out. So I just made a loop right around those deer tracks, and I come to 3 tracks running out. And none of them really looked big enough to be that buck. So, and it was hard to tell because that snow that day was really fluffy and crisp. So unless that deer was walking with his foot flat, you couldn't really tell the size of his print. And if they were running, it was just full of snow, just a pock mark, you know. So I kept going, and I went up around the top side. Well, sure enough, there was another track running. And I followed him for a little ways, and I go, yeah, that's the buck right there. You could just tell it was a lot bigger and a further leap, further jump. I said, yeah, that's him. And at the time I said, man, I ought to go back and just follow them does for a while, up there about 400 or 500 yards and just wait. Because I said, he was right with those does. He's not going to leave them for a reason because I jumped him. And I said, nah, I'll stay on him. Sure enough, I got on him, started following him, and he made a great big swing, probably 500 yards. Went right back and grouped up with that one doe in heat. The other 2 does left, and he grouped back up with that one doe. Well, they started walking. So I slowed right down, and I was sneaking on him and hoping I could get a shot. And he got in those really, it was all those strip cuts, and in between it was these thick furs that you had to get right down almost in your knees to get through. So they had gone through a patch of that, and they were standing on the other side. So when I started to sneak through it, of course, all that brush raking off my jacket and everything else, they heard me. Took off again. So I got through, and I see where they had taken off, and I said, shit. I said, I probably should have played that a little different. So I started on the tracks, and sure enough, they split again. So this time I said, well, I'm going to take the doe. So I followed that doe up, and if you get up in there, it gets up into a little bit of like maybe 25-year-old cut that they cut back when I was younger, when I had my camp out there. And you could see through it pretty good. And the doe went up through that, and that buck left, and he did the same thing. He went to the left again, just like he did the last time. So I followed that doe up, and she kind of got up, zigzagged back and through. She crossed a brook, went up onto a little knoll there, and she come out. There was like another cut where they, you know how they'll section out sections where they cut. So we got into a new section where they had cut like 5 years ago. And it was all those raspberry bushes. You probably saw that in the picture.
Yep.
And you could see a road up through there about 300 yards up through there. You could see their main twitch trail had all grown up raspberry bushes. So I said, well, this looks like a good spot for him to intercept her. I'm going to stand right here. And I stood there probably 4 minutes. And I looked to my right, and he just walked right out in that road. And I put the old bead on him from that new muzzleloader. And pow. He went about 20 yards, 30 yards probably, and piled up.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yep.
the Woodman Arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So, yeah, that's how that worked. So I ended up, he did that twice to that doe, and that's what killed him.
Right.
And if he hadn't grouped back with that doe, I probably would have just made a big swing till I picked his track up again. And because sometimes they will eventually leave the doe. If you jump them 2 or 3 times, they'll just go off on their own and, not want to deal with the doe being there. Yeah.
Good.
I had quite a few tracks where the bucks, anytime I had a buck with a doe this year, they always seemed to stay. They never split.
You're right.
The ones that I dealt with this year that never had that where they
Lots
split.
of times they don't, but
they stay right together.
once in a while you get one of them old smart ones. And
Yeah, you get one of them old bastards, and they get you pressure them a little bit. And
they'll break right away.
Their life is worth more than that doe. They can find another doe.
Kind of like us.
Yeah.
You better hope the wife don't hear that.
I was going to say, I'm not looking for any more does. I'm all set. Just for the record.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
You got into a little bit. We had some pretty good conditions on that last week.
Yeah, that was a big bastard you were after, Hal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The last day of the season, I went down hunt with Shanzy there, and they'd got a little snow. It wasn't much. It was kind of funny the way that snow hit. It would be an inch somewhere, and it'd be 3 inches, 20 miles away. And I drove down on, the snow came, I think, Wednesday night or something, and I drove down Thursday morning down that way, down towards Bingham. That's the closest place I can get to where that second season is.
right.
And I checked a bunch of them roads down there. Rick, you had told me some of them roads, and I'd been on a couple of them before. Years ago, I hunted down there, probably.
Yeah, there wasn't enough snow this year to really drive them in there like has been in the past. Yeah.
No, I went through, and there was enough snow to see a track crossing the road. It was just about enough. It didn't cover the leaves, but it was enough to track on if you got on one. But it was like 10 degrees that morning. It was crunchy, everything was frozen.
Right.
And I never did see a good track. I saw 2 buck tracks that were decent, you know what I mean? And I had nothing I wanted to take. And I said, well.
Right.
So I ended up just going home. I said, ain't enough snow here to worth it. And I checked them roads. So I went, plus it's crappy country and a lot of it. If you don't know the area, when you look at it from them roads, it's like, where would you start? Because it's just all old cuts,
Old cuts everywhere, yeah.
Yeah. So I went home, and then I said, I think Lee had said he was going to go that day, and then he went with you, didn't he, Joe, that day? You guys went Thursday.
We went Thursday, yep.
That
Thursday. Same spot, yep.
Yeah, you were up the other way, kind of east of where I was, probably 10 miles or so, and so Lee said there was more snow over there, so we kind of planned on going on. It was supposed to be cold and crunchy again on Friday, so Saturday it was calling for that freezing rain stuff and warming up. I said, well, there'll be one day to go, so I ended up going down there with Lee anyways, another place I'd never been before, but so he told me to head out.
That's good hunting over that way. I know what you mean.
It wasn't bad. It was, like I said, I only was in there once, and some of the woods was pretty good, and then I got on this buck anyways. I went in by this newer cut, and I actually followed Joe's tracks from Thursday because Joe had found a good track in there, and I said, well, if I follow his tracks, I'm going to find where the deer were anyways. But I had to go quite a ways. There wasn't much for tracks for a long, long way. And I finally got probably in there about a mile, at least a mile, because I know I was more than an hour into it. And I found a buck track, and it was actually not that old. I don't think it was more than a couple hours old, but it wasn't real big. It was decent, one of them ones that might have been 200 earlier,
Might have had good horns, though.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking down there, and I said, you know what? I said, worst case is if I follow it, it's going to maybe take me to something bigger along the way. He's going to go where there's some deer. And so I said, well, I'll just poke on it. And I started poking along on it. And I wasn't 15, 20 minutes. And he stepped out and he got in this kind of an old wood road, kind of grown in, and there was a monster track in it. There was 2 other deer had been down that wood road, and he turned and went right down it behind him. But that one track in there was a real nice track. Great big dew claws about 2 inches back and an inch out on either side. And I go, this is a good one here. But it was older in the night, and it had kind of like flurried in the night. It was a dusting, but there wasn't the dust in that track. And I said, it can't be really old in the night, but I don't know. Maybe the snow came right after dark. So I took it anyways because it was so big, and I didn't go a long ways, and it laid down. And I said, well, he probably ain't going to go a long ways. And that woods was pretty good going. I go, this was pretty interesting. And he got going again, and he was kind of going down that road for a long way, and he'd get off in it, and he'd get back on it. And next thing I know, there was several other tracks fresher on top of his. And a couple times I had to back up to make sure his track was, I didn't miss it somewhere, but they were treading all through his tracks, you know.
Yeah, right.
So anyways, then there was more tracks, and all the tracks were all going one way. It was headed east. I thought to myself, geez, I don't know, are they going towards a deer yard or something? But I said, it didn't make no sense because there hadn't been any snow really to speak of.
They still kind of migrate that way that time of year, though.
Yeah, I thought that's what he was just probably doing, but I said, he ain't going to go all that far, I don't think. So I kept going. He kept going east and east and east and east.
Jesus.
I crossed the logging road, one that, just a grown-in one. You could drive a truck down it, I suppose, but it wasn't like a regular logging road. It was just more like a tote road. Crossed one, crossed another, crossed 3 logging roads. Probably they were, I don't know, half a mile or so apart, maybe a mile. And I know I'm getting far now. And he still ain't stopped for anything. He hasn't done one thing. He hasn't made a rub, hasn't made a scrape, hasn't fed, hasn't done anything. And I'm like, still due east. And
had something on his mind.
Yeah, and finally he laid down again. He finally got out of some tracks, and he got on this little low knoll, and he laid down, and he got up and he laid again. I could see where his bed's kind of crossed. And I said, well, he spent some time here. I gained on him. So now it's probably by then it was noon, maybe later, maybe 1, probably 1. And I looked at the track, and it really didn't look any fresher because during the day it was warming and it was started to freeze and rain, so it changed the track. But I'm like, it definitely ain't fresh yet, Got on it again, keeps heading east. Gets in kind of like another trail, and all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of deer tracks walking in his. They're all headed west.
What? Huh.
So they're all them deer headed the opposite way, but he's still heading east.
He's still going that way, yeah.
And he got in the worst shithole you could imagine. It looked like all I could think of was it was a cedar bog, and they clear cut it.
Maybe you were at the coast.
Something. It was like they cut all the big cedar out of there, and it had grown in with nothing but alders and brown ash.
Oh.
It was all that was in there.
Yeah.
And by now, the freezing rain had started pulling the limbs down, and the alders were all sinking down.
Yeah.
So I'm crawling under them, because them deer go right under,
Right, like
over
nothing.
and under and around and ducking and going. And then he come out to the end of another road, and it was like kind of grown in. There was a bunch of cedar there. I go, he's going to feed in this cedar. And then there was a bunch of deer tracks there dubbing around, 6 or 8 sets of tracks. So I had to kind of work around in there, and I kept looking. I go, he ain't feeding here. He's just walking through it. So I looked at my watch, and it was getting towards 2 o'clock now. And I got my Onyx out, and I got looking at it and trying to figure out. And I said to myself, I am a long ways over.
That pond that you were talking about earlier that you mentioned, was that at the end of your run?
Yeah, I was even with it. I could see on the Onyx I was just south of a little pond called Mud Pond, which is 1,000 of them in Maine, of course.
That was 3 miles. I looked earlier. That was straight line 3 miles from the truck.
Yeah.
So through the woods and
Yeah, that's a good little haul.
Yeah. And I said, I got to get out of here because I knew I couldn't walk a logging road because all them logging roads all ran north-south, and I had to go west. And I'd never been there, so I didn't know any easy way to go, and I didn't know what the woods were, so I just got my compass, and I started headed west. And I got in the worst frickin' bog shitholes I had to cross these bogs, and because the ice was letting go a little, because when it warms up, it takes the hardness out of it.
Right.
And I was trying to tiptoe across these little bog things and beaver swales and alders. I bet one patch of alders I went through, I had to cross 2 little streams in this one alder patch, and I bet it was over a quarter of a mile through these alders. Almost on my hands and knees.
Sounds like good bobcat country.
Yeah, and I couldn't make no time. You get in doing that, and because you got to go back zigzagging. And
oh, yeah.
So when I'd get out of them, then I tried to pick up the pace, and I'm starting to really drag some ass here now. And I said, I got to just go because it's going to get dark, them cloudy days, But I just hammered away and hammered away and hammered away, and I started crossing them roads. And I ended up crossing more roads. Like I crossed 3 going over, and now I've crossed like 5. And I guess they had come in from another road system. Lee had told me later, because none of them was they were new enough where I could see they had just kind of excavated them. They weren't on the Onyx. I'm like, holy smoke. But I just kept heading west, and finally I came into a newer cut that I knew had to be the one that was, near the truck there. It was like a 5-year-old cut, maybe 4 or 5 years old, and I got in the skid road and hammered my way out, and I could see the truck out there, and Lee and
soaked.
Yeah, my jacket probably weighed 20 pounds. I was soaked, and I suffered that night. I got in bed, and before I got to bed, I had cramps in both my inner thighs and my hamstrings, and got to bed, and my legs were still sore in the morning.
It's funny you said about the inner thighs, because that same day I was home that afternoon, evening, sitting on the couch, and I went to get up for something, and one of my thighs cramped up, and it put me right to the ground. I mean, it was oh, Jesus. And so I'm trying. Normally you can.
Liz is probably, what's the matter?
Yeah. She came over, and I said, my groin is cramped, and rub it quick. No, no. I said, so I'm trying to stretch it. I'm trying to get up, and while I'm trying to get up to stretch it, my other one goes.
Yeah, exactly.
And there I am rolling around on my living room floor, and I mean I'm in pain.
Yeah.
Like when it gets to that point, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, you get a Charlie horse. That's it.
I have a bad habit of not hydrating enough.
Yeah.
I just don't drink enough water.
I'll get him at night and in bed right in the middle of the night and just jump right up. And
oh, yeah.
I have to stand on him to make him go away.
Brutal.
What I do, that pain cream my honey makes will take him away. I don't know what it is, but it will. And I grab that and I rub it in, and usually within these bad ones it took a couple minutes, but usually in a minute it takes it right away.
No kidding.
But these were bad, and I was trying to rub them both at once, but it hurt so bad I couldn't, so I'd rub one real quick. I'd put some cream on the other one. I'd start rubbing the other one, and within a couple minutes, it
get
was
them
subsiding.
those muscles to relax.
Oh,
yeah.
What is it with the inner thigh? Why is that the one? Is there?
I don't know, but
I think
that's the worst one.
I think it's the way you walk, and I think that particular day was my wool pants were heavy too.
Yeah.
And
it puts a lot of strain on your back and your
you're
hips
lifting
when you're wet.
Your pants are wet. It's like having weights on.
Yeah.
Something to do with that. Plus, I think a lot of it for me was going through all that
shit,
alders and shit, stepping around and over and
just walking
crawling
different
through and
And that wool, that's the one drawback of wool, is how heavy it gets when it's wet, because it makes a difference by the end of the day.
Yeah.
On a day like
warm.
that, I
It'll
was
keep you warm,
soaked when
though.
I got home that
Yeah.
day. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, anyways, but hey, I had walked steady we got out of the truck right after daylight, and I walked steady all day. I sat down, had a sandwich once. Didn't wait a half an hour because I hadn't caught up, but I needed a sandwich, so I ate a sandwich and
kept going.
got going again. But other than that, I was steady walking from, say, 7 in the morning till 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah, I had a couple of different days that were 12 or 14 miles this year that I never even got a shot.
Oh, yeah.
I jumped one buck like 4 or 5 times and never even got a shot at him. And but
that's what it's about.
Yeah, some of them are unkillable on certain days, and then you wait a week and you go back and that buck's in a whole different frame of mind, different mood, different attitude, and you walk up to him and he stands up and boom.
Goes into a different
Or
place.
you got a
maybe,
10 or 12 mile an hour wind that makes a difference.
Yeah,
And,
just something.
we had a lot of time on these this year. It seemed like there was days that the snow was good, but it was so quiet.
Oh, yeah.
It was just
Yeah,
sneaking up on one.
yeah.
It seems like the best days of snow that we had was dead silent.
Yeah.
Dead silent. They were
silent.
most of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the way it was. I remember the best day was the last day of the season when we had just we got that snow like Friday, Thursday.
Thursday and Friday it snowed all day,
Yeah.
so you couldn't find a track.
Right.
I worked my ass off. I walked all day long both days.
I did too, and I
Yeah,
never
and
found
Saturday,
one.
like you said, was the best day.
I found a big track at 1:30 on Saturday,
Yeah,
and I almost got that one, but
Yeah.
but it was windy that day. It
that was that big one you were after.
Yeah, I told you when I got on that one, I go, I'm going to kill this guy because he was just acting like he needed to be killed,
Right. Yeah.
Get
Some
out
of
of
them
his
do.
misery,
Yeah.
but it just didn't work out right. I spooked him in the wrong place without knowing it. It's all circumstance. It's funny how it works,
Oh yeah, it is.
I thought that last day, the day you were just talking about, the last day of muzzleloader for the state was a great day. Where I was, I had good snow.
Pour and rain.
Yeah, it was quiet.
No, that was a good deer killing day.
Oh,
Yeah, it was.
come
I
pretty
think
close
if
twice.
I'd have caught up to that big one, I think I probably would have got a chance there. Well, not where he ended up in that real thick stuff, but if I'd have got him going earlier in the day, I'm pretty sure I could have got that one that day.
Yeah. So, I know some days it's frustrating. You get on a track and you're thinking in your mind, holy cow, it's noon or 1 o'clock and I got 3 hours of daylight to kill this buck, and it kind of hurries you a little bit too much.
Yeah.
So you make
Forces
make mistakes, right? That normally if you found him in the morning, you'd hold back and you'd probably kill him.
Yeah.
Because
I went into it's a spot that Rick had showed me a few years ago.
Yeah.
I went in the last day, and I was gonna go.
Yeah. There's a couple good ones in there.
I was gonna go someplace different, and I got to thinking about that, and I just figured it's pretty close proximity.
Yeah, that's kind of that's always my backup spot for a big buck. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You can't really.
I asked Rick. I said,
You
"What
got
do
to
you think
walk
about-"
in there. You can only drive in one road, and then if you make a 1 mile loop, you're going to cut 2 or 3 big buck tracks almost every time.
Well, I never found a big track that day. I did a couple years ago when I went in there, but last Saturday I went in and I walked a trail that's in there, and I came to a brook, and I was just. I mean, it was a nice day just for walking and just kind of still hunting,
Right.
And so I was kind of just going down along the brook, and I see a deer coming, and so I got down and waited, and it was a small buck. It was like a little 6-pointer inside his ears, so he just was doing his thing. Then I see another one behind it,
Most guys would have shot him.
and it was a little bit bigger.
Right. But
Yeah.
that's next year's buck for us. But
Well, yeah, so there was two bucks there,
Yeah.
and then there was a couple does, and I'm like, I like this spot, and I know Hal usually goes pretty hard just looking for a track, but I can't help myself from slowing down when I'm in a spot like that and just still hunting kind of, and
would you kill this year, Lee? Anything?
Nothing.
No?
Time. I did hunt more than normal, I will say.
Yeah.
I said I was going to. I didn't get a lot more.
I see they shot some big ones here in Rangeley.
Yeah, they got.
Yeah.
It was in the teens for over 200 pounders, at least 15
Wow.
over 200. But
Well, that's
some
a lot
nice
more than
racks.
Jackman.
A lot of nice
No,
racks.
I think it was probably that.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Good racks. I saw some good racks.
Even some smaller deer. I saw one 178, and he was just a smashing rack.
Yeah, there was good racks this year. I noticed that even the ones over in town. I mean, it'd be a 160-pound deer with great racks.
Huh.
The thing is that muzzleloader, I really because that was when we had the best weather.
Yeah,
And
that's
there
right.
was 2 different times I didn't pull the trigger with a muzzleloader because, if you had a rifle and you could layer out and,
Oh, yeah.
that
Yeah.
thing's motoring through
You
the
do-
woods
yeah.
and you're unloading. But
Right.
with the muzzleloader, one, I think I could have, I don't know. You never know. But twice I didn't even fire because of
Oh, yeah. I do that all the time.
That's too close. And then the day that I should have, I was telling these guys earlier in the last podcast, but I tracked one the last day all day long, and he was making a big loop back to the truck, and he probably went, it wasn't a lot, maybe 6.5 miles around. And I got him out of bed first thing in the morning. He had just laid down, and then I saw him in a skid trail, and it was over 100 yards, and I couldn't really see through my Peep sight, and he was behind a blowdown, and I was, just one of them, do you wanna,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I thought, well, I mean, he was acting like he was tired, and it's kind of funny, but anyways, he goes around the backside of the mountain, and he's just being a dummy, and I'm moving, trying to catch him. And I kept thinking, I'm going to catch him. Once he walked back his tracks 100 yards, and I'm like, you do that again, you prick.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting closer.
Yeah.
And he goes into this green growth like he wants to lay down. So I slowed right down, and I'm one step, looking everywhere. Nothing. He came out of that, and he acted like he wanted to lay down. Got into a little hardwood ridge, screws across that 200 or 300 yards, and right into another green patch. Starts dubbing around again, and I'm like, all right, he's got to be right here. He goes down, comes back his track, just, not even 10 yards. Goes a little bit more, down his track, comes back like 5 yards. I'm like, all right. And he steps into this really thick spot. And instead of going through like your jacket making noise, that's, it's thick and it's green growth, and I'm like, it was an aisle to my left, and I'm like, I'm just going to sneak up around and drop back in like 25 feet or something, And I do that, and when I finally get an opening to drop back down into where his tracks was, and I'm looking one step, looking, and I got within 20 feet of him, and he comes out of that bed 100 miles an hour and jumps straight down that hill. And all I could see was he was dark, like, oh, shit, that's a dark deer. But, again, I didn't really see the antlers, and he was gone. Not a big-footed deer. So I was telling the guys, I called my buddy John, and, he had service there, and I'm like, hey, you near the truck? And he says, yeah, I'm sitting in it. I'm like, get out of that truck and get on that buck track that I crossed the road on this morning. He's coming your way, and he's moving. So I go down. He only runs. The first time I jumped him, he ran like 100 yards. The second time I jumped him, it was in that tote road. He went a few hundred yards. And then this time he only went a couple hundred yards and starts walking again, meandering. So I start running because I'm thinking, I'm going to catch you. Because he's just being a dummy. And I get within 100 yards of the road, and I don't hear a gunshot. And I'm thinking, I'm going to see the deer, because I know John's standing in the road. I hit the road, no John. I'm like, what the heck? All of a sudden, boom. All right, so good. He's dead, So I wasn't, at that time, I was probably 250 yards in a straight line behind that deer. So I get up there, and he didn't have any blood on the ground, and
Missed him,
yeah. Big deer, too. He didn't have a big foot, like you said,
Yeah.
And John says, Lee, that thing was big, it was really dark, and it had one hell of a set of horns. So
wow. That one we shot, what was it, 3 years ago now, my buddy Sandy shot. That deer had a foot about the size of a 170, 180-pound deer.
Yeah.
And we couldn't find any other buck tracks. We were down south of Jackman that day and couldn't find any other buck tracks. And I said, well, let's take that one. So we played with him for 3 days and kept jumping him. And I shot at him and missed him. Then I shot at him again. And he come around to Sandy. Sandy just happened to be on where a whole bunch of his back tracks all came together, standing on a little knoll there. And he come by him. And that deer weighed 230. Great big wide, 23-inch wide, 11-point
beautiful
beauty. But you wouldn't have guessed that deer weighed 180 pounds by looking at his foot.
You know what I did notice, though? Because it was the print was deeper. You know what I mean? Like, he was driving.
This one was like that. He was deeper. Yeah.
And that was the only thing that gave me any hope that he was over. I didn't want to get shit from the old man for shooting a little deer.
That and always look for the stance, you know.
Yeah, and he did. He had a good stagger.
So you knew his chest was wide.
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes you look at them, especially going uphill.
Yeah.
They look like a fawn. You're like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah,
walking
just the
on
tip
their
of their
toes.
toes.
You
Walking
know,
on
I'm
the
like,
tips,
what
yeah.
the hell am I doing on this deer track? But,
You want to give up, and then he goes downhill. Oh no, I don't want to give up now.
you're like, you got to go back and be like, that ain't the same deer I was just on.
Yeah, they'll be all splayed out. And
Yeah.
Some of them, though, those real big ones, which are few and far between nowadays, it seems like. But they always look big.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We used to find them 25, 30 years ago. They were everywhere.
yeah,
Giant bucks. But
Yeah, you can't make a big track look small, but you can
make a small
track
Absolutely.
look big in your mind.
yeah. Yeah, that's a good saying. Yeah.
so, what was the total on 200s and bishops?
You know what? I didn't look at the paper and count, but I was just thinking about it. I think it's around 15, which is low for there because I remember traditionally it was always in the 30s. It was always 30, 35 for years and years. And then we had a couple years when we had, the bad winters and lost a lot of deer. It dropped down, but
So you've seen that cycle before, like
oh yeah,
what we got now?
it always cycles around. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, but 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now, when we had, the snow the whole season, that's when you get a lot of them. This year we didn't get as many because it's just a function of the snow. Them big ones, they're harder to get where they live, and you don't find them on bare ground.
And you get snow the first couple of weeks. How many of those 201, 208,
that's right.
That lose all that weight anyway? They're
Oh,
still early
yeah.
in the season.
Exactly right. If you got snow the beginning of the season, you're always going to have more 200-pounders, and then ones that are in the,
Always.
even Thanksgiving week, anything that's in the 180s up, that weighed over 200. The beginning of the season,
Guaranteed.
Nice bucks,
Yeah.
But
That one I killed, his backbone was sticking out.
That was one of
Really?
the for the rack it had on. It was a nice 10-point rack.
Yeah.
Man, he didn't have much of a body.
No, he was
He
just
was skinny,
skinny,
small,
worn right
skinny,
down.
yep.
Yeah.
Sure was.
Running
Broke
the
off
does.
brow tine.
Yeah, he did. He had half a brow tine broke off. Yeah.
You mount him?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
oh yeah, got
Yeah.
to mount that.
Yeah. He was better than average rack for Jackman.
Oh yeah. It was
Yeah.
nice, symmetrical.
Yeah.
I did find out that it was 159 was a kill in Jackman. A little more than I thought.
Yeah.
I think one of the podcasts, I thought it was 100 and up towards 150, but it ended up 159. And like I said, there's a lot of young deer. And because I think a lot of it was up because this is the first year they gave quite a few doe permits in Zone 8. I didn't ask what the doe kill was, but I know that contributes a lot of it because most of the years when they were shooting 110 to 125, there was no doe permits. They were all bucks,
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily know if the buck kill was up.
I heard they gave 400 permits in that Zone 8.
Yeah,
which
that's
I thought
up quite
was
a
kind of
bit.
excessive.
400 doe tags in Zone 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
because the last couple of years they gave like 25, and they upped it. But
Yeah, they upped it everywhere this year.
Yeah, there was, which reflected in the state kill. It was a high kill for the state,
Yeah.
but
yeah, it's around 39,000 state, and it's the highest in 40 years, they said. But again, it's because of the doe permits. They gave out over 100,000 doe permits.
Right.
Yeah.
something else I heard from someone that they attribute it to is the cost of meat, inflation. It's more expensive to put meat on the table,
Yeah.
so you're going to get someone out that might
Well,
not normally go.
And the other thing they did was they made the doe system now, not all the zones, but at least the central and southern zones where there's more deer, where you could shoot a doe and a buck. You could kill 2 deer.
Yeah.
See, they hadn't been doing that, so people would get a doe permit, and they'd just hunt for a buck till the last couple of days maybe. So that reflects.
Well, I think they like a landowner, I know I could have put in and had 2 does.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a bonus doe tag besides your original doe tag. So
Yeah.
really could have shot 3.
Yeah, I was in on a meeting there. I'm on some task force about the doe system there, and I set in on all that, and they were trying to figure out, because there's just too many. There's down southern Maine, there's way too many doe. They can't get people to kill enough in them, like York County down south there. They're like rats down there now. They don't start killing them, we're going to have the diseases like they get in them other states,
And it's a better, it's a better hunt if there's fewer does.
It is.
Ratio. It's a better hunt. The bucks have to search more. They have to roam more. It just, but it's hard to get past that mindset. Everyone always thinks more is better, so don't kill the does. But really, it'll help things. It takes the pressure off the buck kills and makes it, where the buck's got to search a little harder. Yeah,
I know. Growing up, I mean, it was Brown was down. It was either sex until the 80s, and nobody ever was concerned about not having enough deer, because it just wasn't.
Care.
Yeah, and there wasn't that many in southern Maine.
Yeah,
like down where all the deer are now was the places where there weren't hardly any in the 60s.
Exactly, right.
Even in the 70s. But
my little nephew there shot one. He shot a doe.
Yeah,
Keegan. Yeah.
How old's he?
I think he's 6.
Yeah,
he's already killed either 3 or 4 deer.
Yeah,
yeah,
nice.
two bucks. Yeah, pretty good for a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whose boy's that?
Butch's.
Oh, Butch's. Yeah. I seen him at the lodge here one night.
Yeah, he's a good kid.
Yeah.
So I just want to tell everybody too. My grandfather's he's 100, which I don't know if everybody knew that, but he killed a buck this year at 100 years old, a 6-point buck with me. And I was with him, and that was a great hunt, just awesome. And David Willett is doing a story that's coming out in Northwood Sporting Journal in January about my grandfather being 100 years old shooting a buck in Maine. And he called, I believe he called Fish and Game, and they say that he's the oldest man to ever kill a buck in Maine.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everybody look for that and read it.
Yeah, we're gonna try and get him on the next podcast, right? We'll get him. See if we can get him up to Parlin.
Yeah,
that would be good.
Yeah, either that or we'll have you guys go to his house.
Yeah. That's fine with me.
We'll move all the newspapers.
Yeah.
Remember the old people save all the newspapers to start fires?
Coupons.
Yeah. Jesus, I had to clean his house out there 3 or 4 years ago, and we hauled out like 2 truckloads of newspapers. I didn't know I had all this room in here.
Does it get any better than that? Shooting a deer at 100 years old?
No.
I mean,
no.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable, especially in Maine.
Yeah. Then after he shot that buck, I said, "We'll sit right here, just give him some time, make sure he lays down and dies." And I had a 22 250, which he used because it didn't kick very much. So I said that'd be perfect gun for him. So we sat there, and about 10 minutes go by, and there was two bucks come out together. There was a 4-point, a 6-point, and pretty soon the 4-point come back out all by himself. And I says, "You got him." "Well, how do you know that?" I said, "Well, that 4-point was with his buddy, and he's not no more." And about 10 minutes later, an 8-point comes out.
Oh, geez.
It was the one Nancy killed.
Oh, yeah.
So I texted her, and she was hunting across the brook up on the mountain. And I said, "Hey," there was like 30 minutes of daylight left or so. And I said, "Hey, there's a pretty good 8-point out here, that one that was on camera. Maybe you ought to sneak down, try to kill him." "Nah, I'll kill him another night," she said. She didn't even care. And she did. She killed him like 2 nights later in a different stand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Byrne was trying to squeeze down on that one too, wasn't he?
He goes, "Geez, that's a nice buck right there." I said, "You're all tagged out. This ain't the old days."
Hey.
Yeah. But he got to see him. He got to see 3 bucks that night.
Yeah. That's nice.
All right. Now it's time to talk about snowmobiling.
Yeah, you got 2 minutes before we wrap it up.
Yeah. So you coming to Wyoming this year, Lee?
I'm not.
You're
Nope,
not?
I'm not. No, I gotta go on a honeymoon to
What if you had a free
Utah.
sled to ride?
Well, that might change. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
When are you going?
When are you going?
February.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got my torn shoulder, but it feels pretty good. I got it being operated on.
That's going to feel good till about the time we get to the first knife's edge and we drop into one of them holes and you'll be like, "Geez, I think I'm going to head back to camp."
I'm going to try it.
That's too bad. We had fun there for a little bit, but
yeah.
Ain't that neat country?
Oh, yeah.
Look
awesome
off and
country.
see the Tetons and wolf tracks. I mean,
yeah.
them wolves are I don't.
Everywhere.
I mean, I don't know as I want to see one without a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them things are just great big.
Yeah, we got to try a couple. I got to take you to that other spot where I ride. I ain't going to say it on podcast because there's already more people than we want there.
Yeah. That new spot at that horse ranch.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's actually
Now,
the
now you're
back
protecting
side.
snowmobile spots in Wyoming.
Yes.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
we ought to start protecting everything.
Right.
It's getting crazy.
Yeah.
So you're going to be on a honeymoon in Utah. That's pretty close.
Yeah, so actually she's coming from,
Yeah.
I think she's coming back here and then she's going to go to Florida. So usually that Florida trip in the spring, I go smelting, but I might just,
Might be able to sneak a hunt in or
What?
something while you're out there.
yeah. We'll see.
Mountain lion.
Yeah.
That's still
Is
going
it going?
on. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that goes till April.
I wanted to go fishing down in Florida, like bone fishing or something. I've
Yeah.
never done that, but
That'd be fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Time to kill coyotes.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. I just got a new sled for coyote and moose shit
Yeah.
hunting. And
I got a new dog I just picked up.
Yeah. Well,
He acts like he's gonna rip, but you never know till you put him on there.
Can you hunt New Hampshire? Because there's a bunch of dogs over there, like crazy dogs.
I don't know.
yeah.
In fact, John
Sure
saw
you-
3 different colored coyotes in one spot last week.
Huh.
Last week in muzzleloader. They all stepped right out in front of him.
But
And
we've
I
got
said-
plenty in Maine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. But
Yeah.
We don't need to go over.
We
and-
I
clean
got
them
one
out.
spot in New Hampshire.
We
I'm
clean them
partial
out,
to.
and then they replenish themselves. It seems like in 6 months they're all.
They got to let us go back to snaring. They got to.
I know they should.
Fur's got to be worth something again.
I noticed there on that show Trapper Jake I was telling you about, that old man that was trapping. They were snaring out there, and that was only 7 years ago.
Yeah,
You know, so they can still do it. They were in Wyoming.
Yeah.
Well,
I know they should because they took the lynx off the endangered species list, and so I can't understand why they haven't brought snaring back yet.
I've seen more fur this year in the woods than I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Big fishers, lots of smaller
Yeah.
fishers, pine marten, you name
A lot
it.
of fishes.
Lot of
I
fur.
know. I saw
Yeah.
more fisher tracks this year in
Well,
Chapman than I've seen in
nobody
years.
traps because they ain't worth nothing, you know. Actually, the coyote fur is worth the most out of anything.
Really?
Crazy.
Yeah, they're like $40 for a coyote, so they're
Yeah.
worth.
Yeah.
So,
Huh. I never got more than $18 to $20 for a coyote
yeah,
in the past.
it's just
No.
it's the way
Wouldn't
things
skin 'em
cycle.
out.
But,
I know. Cost you $10 to skin them out.
but I haven't seen that many tracks north of town.
Right, north
Well,
of town.
'cause we only had that 1 week of good
South
snow.
of town, I saw a lot of tracks.
Yeah.
We got to clean that out
Yeah,
this year.
we'll work on that.
Yeah. We need some bait down
The
there.
tracks I did see there was a couple of pretty good ones, a couple of them
Big ones.
big ones.
Yeah.
They need to be cleaned out. But
You're having a hard time getting bait?
Yeah, but I put a message on Facebook, and I had about 20 people, and then I ended up having to work all day yesterday because Mike couldn't come in, and so I couldn't go round any bait up, but I found quite a lot of deer parts.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
People are going to give me, so,
Good.
yeah.
Yeah, I get a couple baits out down there to get going with.
Yeah, get them froze up good so they can't drag them all off, you know. That's the secret. Get them froze, and they got a gnaw on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeps them coming.
If you put them in them plastic barrels and put some water in there and it
Right.
freezes them all together, they pick at the ice and
Yeah.
it'll last a long time, though.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Tried to freeze some up last year, and it never got cold enough to really freeze it.
Last year? didn't
Yeah, in January there in the
Yeah.
beginning, it was pretty warm, and we ended up needed the bait, so we just dumped it out, and they cleaned it all up in a week. 55-gallon barrels of bait just gone. Yeah, well, we killed a lot of coyotes
Yeah.
last year.
I think we got off that one bait that Eugene there, the meat cutter head. I think we got at least 12 or 15 off of that.
Yeah.
bait. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
that
had-
was a good bait.
Yeah. And then once we got done
Yeah.
with that,
They got plenty of meat to eat there.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not there this year though, but they got it in a different spot. So
Oh, they do. Huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
they weren't allowed to put it there. It's a wood yard now. 'Cause
Oh,
he,
yeah.
He started putting it there in September like he always did, and they started filling that whole pit up with logs.
Holy cow.
I went over there one day looking for a track, and a coyote had gone down and dubbed around the bait. And he
Beat.
went up and he walked up. They had tree-length wood there, and he walked up on that wood pile, and walked down a log and over it and worked all over that wood and went down and
Yeah.
and
I
left.
was going to say we'd end up banging them up in the wood pile.
Yeah.
We've done that before.
Yeah.
Getting a hole and
Yeah. This year it's over. I guess they had. I think Jason went over and dug a hole with his excavator, and I guess he's in the spring. He's supposed to cover it all over, like a pit or something. But
yeah.
it's out. It's out in the deer yard there. So it's
Oh,
a
it
good
is.
spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Up to Gander
That's
Road
a good
there.
spot then.
Somewhere's up
Yeah.
Gander Road somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a few coming to it.
You think those coyotes cross 201 quite a bit back and forth?
Oh yeah.
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 I know the ones because we.
Below town, we never really had a lot of them cross 201 a whole lot. They'd kind of stay on,
Yeah.
the ones on the hard scrub side would stay there, and the ones over on Parlin side would stay there. Once in a great while, like twice a
Right.
year, you'd get one that would cross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think they cross on their own a lot more than maybe if you chase them across. But
Right.
because there
That's
was
what I was talking to. They cross on their own back and forth.
Yeah, because there was a bunch of them the end of like 2 years ago, kind of like out behind Mountain View down in there.
Yeah.
And then the next year, we said we're going to thin them out the next year, and there weren't hardly one in there.
Huh.
They were all over the other side where the deer are,
Yeah.
I think it depends on if any
There's deer on
deers-
both sides of the road, though, so
Yeah.
they're going to keep.
It's where they
checking.
settle in and stuff. But
Yeah.
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 But, yeah. Looking forward to it anyway, so.
Sounds good.
Well, been a good conversation. So,
Another season behind us.
another season.
No, no,
Another one coming. I picked up.
I got 2 more hunts.
I got 2 more tags.
Oh, actually, yeah. Are you going? Well, you're probably going to be gone. There is
Going to Nebraska, then to
Massachusetts.
Arizona.
yeah.
Yeah.
When you leaving?
Day after Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, mule deer hunt in Nebraska, and then mule deer hunt in Arizona.
Yeah.
Archery for Arizona.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah, then I'm coming back.
Even with a
and-
bad shoulder, you're going
Okay.
archery hunting.
No, I crossbow. I had to get a crossbow permit for now,
yeah.
but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, we're going to be bringing in a new year here right off. So, Happy New Year to everybody. And till next time, good luck on the trail.
Hey, Hal here. Hey, one thing I realized as I was getting older is when I was younger, I never really planned for retirement. And so my client for the last couple of years, Jerry Smith, had been talking to me about it a little bit. And I don't know when I'm going to retire, but I definitely got to get ready for it. But Jerry owns a company called the Northern Way Wealth Management. And he's got a program he calls the Northern Way Retirement GPS, and it's a way you can plan to get your finances in order and live your best life, which means time in the woods to track down some big bucks. Because, the problem is not getting enough time in the woods for most people. And, whether it's family or other hobbies or, just financial obligations, it cuts into your hunting time. So Jerry has partnered with Dave Ramsey in his Smart Vest program where he helps folks in his process. And Jerry has partnered with us at Big Woods Bucks to offer you your very own no cost or obligation and Northern Way Retirement GPS. Just call or shoot Jerry a text at 715-551-4181 and mention the promo code BWB. Jerry's going to help you get some retirement time and some more income so you can hunt some more. Good luck on the trail.
Investment advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Northern Way Wealth Management, Retirement Wealth Advisors, and Dave Ramsey are not affiliated.
Hi everyone, Big Woods team member Mark Sheeran here. Many of you know that I have a passion for helping people solve their addictions permanently. As a matter of fact, me and my team have spent the last 31 years helping more than 20,000 people move on from their addictions. So know this, if you or someone you love want to move on from an addiction for good, and you don't want to be stuck in a rehab or 12-step meetings or endless therapies, then you might want to learn about the Freedom Model and the St. Jude Retreat. To learn more, give us a call at 888-424-2626. All calls are confidential. Here's that number again, 888-424-2626, or go to soberforever.net for more information. I really look forward to helping you end your addictions for good. Here's that number one last time, 888-424-2626. Take care.
Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open all obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And, of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com.
Hey, Hal here. Just want to take a minute to talk about the hunting club. And you can join by going right online at bigwoodsbucks.com. But anyways, I've got all my information is going in there. And it's a place where you can get together and look at my films, tips, writings, and all of that. And the best part is there's forums for you to communicate with, the rest of the club members, talk about Big Woods stuff and all of that. So anyways, $36 a year, cheaper than getting a Starbucks once a day. So join up and hope you see you on there. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.